The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Stacy.
And we make Trashy Divorces, everybody's favorite good podcast about bad relationships.
Looking for something true crimey without the gore or the body count?
We've been churning out funny, feisty, feminist episodes since 2019. So if you're looking to put some scandalous stories told well into your ears this summer, check out Trashy Divorces, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Trust us, we've covered someone you love.
Or someone you love to hate.
I want to bring on Brother Rothmann. I want to talk Iran. I also want to talk about the flipping of a seat in Donald Trump's literal backyard of Mar-a-Lago. And whether there are secret war plans, secret peace plans. This guy's written a book literally on the region, knows Iran, Israel, the Persian Gulf states very well. He also is a presidential historian, so he's so very knowledgeable about politics. We'll use all of that knowledge today, sir. How about it for the great John Rothmann? Hi,
Thank
John.
you, Mark. Thank you. I love those modest introductions.
Well, I mean, you deserve all of this, and we really do need to put you to work. So give me a state of the state on the Middle East right now.
We don't know. We don't know whether Donald Trump has negotiated with somebody. We know he put forward a 15-point plan. We know the Iranians have responded with a 5-point plan. We know that they demand control of the Straits of Hormuz. And if they want control of that strait, it's going to create a real problem for Donald Trump. There seems to be no compromise in their view on Israel being destroyed, if they can do it. And so I would say that we really don't have an answer to anything. Now, J.D. Vance is on his way to lead the negotiations along with Marco Rubio. They announced today that Marco Rubio would be joining him. I don't know what that means because nobody knows who they're talking to. The Iranian government denies they're talking to them at all. So we'll just have to wait and see. In the meantime, the war continues. The Iranians continue to attack Israel vigorously, unceasingly, and the Israelis continue to pound Hezbollah in Lebanon relentlessly, unceasingly.
Let me just interrupt you for a moment, sir, and ask you about what's happening in Israel, because there is a blackout of sorts, and it's very hard to get the information. We know there was a mass casualty event this past weekend from an Iranian missile, and
Correct.
you can speak to what the situation in Israel is, and I might just put a pointed question to you. Has Israel perhaps underestimated the Iranians here? Have they bitten off more than they can chew?
No, quite the contrary. The Israelis understood the potential threat. That's why the Israelis were delighted when Donald Trump proposed that they work in a united fashion. But you were precisely correct when you say that there are two different objectives. Donald Trump wants a victory that he can then promote in this country. The Israelis want peace and security for themselves. I don't think the two are compatible at this point. So understand, whatever the ultimate outcome here, the Israelis demand security. They demand that Iran not have a nuclear weapon. They demand that the missiles stop flying. They demand security on their northern border. And those are the things which any government of Israel, left, right, or center, would demand. So at this point, we are at the mercy, and I hate to say this, of Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think he's spinning it every which way with his imaginary friends that he's speaking to. It's a little unclear. Give me the second cut, if you would, Tony. The former head of the MI6 was asked about how things are going in terms of the American-Iranian,
MI6 is British intelligence, just so
thank you, British intelligence, yeah. And just in terms of the Iranian strength versus American strength, at least strategically within the region, and the chess game that is this war. And here's what he had to say. Go ahead, please.
I feel the war is at this really important juncture. President Trump is trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by military means, through threats against Iranian power plants, and to seek to end the war through diplomatic talks. I think what people are struggling with, what I'm struggling with, is a full understanding of who has the upper hand right now, who is in a stronger position as that process unfolds.
Iran. I think, and I regret having come to this conclusion because,
to the former head of British
like
intelligence,
many MI6 officers of my generation, we faced the violence and brutality of the IRGC for most of our careers.
That's the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps.
Yeah. So there is no love lost between us. And I shed no tears for Ali Khamenei, who was killed at the beginning of this war. But the reality is that the US underestimated the task, and I think, as of about 2 weeks ago, lost the initiative to Iran. In practice, the Iranian regime has been more resilient than I think anyone would have expected. They took some good decisions, actually, as early as last June, about dispersing their military capability and delegating the authority for the use of those weapons, which has given them significant extra resilience against this incredibly powerful air campaign. They have embarked on what's technically called horizontal escalation, i.e. firing rockets at anybody within range, which at the time, honestly, Shoshank, I thought was nuts, but in fact has been a very good way of putting in direct price on the US. Sort of worked. And then they've understood the significance of the energy war and held the straits at threat and globalized, and essentially not internationalized, just globalized the conflict in a way that gives them some weapons. So they've played a weak hand pretty well. And at the same time, my second point is that Donald Trump has said some stuff that will have confirmed something they knew already, which is that they're in a civilizational war in their terms. They're in a war of existence. Donald Trump made it very clear that he wanted to see them, up against the wall, basically. Whereas America has embarked on a war of choice. And in those terms, I think that's imbued them with more staying power than their US and certainly US counterparts. And they know that now. And I think that really is giving them the whip hand. And then finally, there's a very technical point, which you'll be as expert or more expert on than I am, which is about stocks of drones and the reality, as I understand it, that whilst this has been an almost perfectly executed military campaign from the air, you can't reduce the threat to zero. And while you can't reduce the threat to zero, Iran can hold the straits at threat. Even with just 10% of its initial drone stocks, it can hold the straits at threat, because these are not military people. It's not a military audience you have to satisfy. This is people who own oil tankers and captains of oil tankers. And that really does give them the whip hand. So I think the options for the USR and Israel are pretty limited and not great.
So there you go. John, I wanted you to hear the whole thing because I really feel as though that last point he made is a significant one, meaning you may have diminished Iranian capacities, even drone capacities, substantially, but it doesn't take much to make the strait impassable, essentially,
Exactly
because of the
100%.
danger.
Absolutely correct. No dispute. Understand the Israeli objective. The Israeli objective was to make sure the nuclear program was stopped cold, that the ICBMs would be limited, if not virtually destroyed. They can deal with drones. They can't deal with ICBMs.
Well, they can deal with drones, and they can't deal with drones. I mean, the drones are an effective weapon in keeping the strait impassable. I mean, de facto impassable.
I'm not talking about the straits.
I know you're talking about the future of Iran. I get it.
I'm talking about people living in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Living in Jerusalem.
Let's make a distinction here, though. You're talking about Iran. The Israeli goals were to take out the ICBMs for the reasons that you've suggested.
Exactly.
I guess what I'm getting at is I don't see where the Americans go here. He cannot reopen the strait in any kind of substantial way without a deal with the Iranians because, as I say, they can compromise the strait and insurance costs alone will close. We've been talking about that since the beginning of the war.
You're absolutely correct. No argument. You're correct. No doubt about it.
So my point is, I think what you've pointed to so well is the way that the Israelis are able to pursue their ends here.
They're not the same as the American ends. The American ends are different. For Donald Trump, it is victory, whatever he defines victory to be.
Okay, so that's
For the
what
Israelis,
he's doing.
It means that their people don't have to go into bomb shelters every night.
So now talk to me about what's happening in Israel. There appears to be damage in Tel Aviv, damage in many areas around Israel that you would have thought might be protected by whatever dome system or interceptor system they have connected. There is a word, and again, I'm saying you get kind of fractured information around what they actually have, what stores of defensive weapons they still have. Have the Israelis been diminished in their ability to take out Iranian weaponry that's incoming, that is defensively to protect themselves?
No, the Israelis are on top of their game, but their game is not the American game. And so you have to understand that when Israel is hit, whether it's hit from Iran or from Lebanon, the Israelis are going to respond with full vigor. They're talking about their own security. Friends of mine in Israel have their children and grandchildren, as well as themselves, in bomb shelters every night. So the Israeli position is better to get rid of this now than one day have a nuclear-armed Iran, which in all likelihood would have used a nuclear weapon. And I want to remind people, a low-grade nuclear weapon, a Hiroshima-type bomb dropped in Tel Aviv would wipe out at least half of the country. And so that's what the Israelis are thinking about. That's not what Donald Trump is thinking about.
I want to know about this gift that Donald Trump is riffing about, that the Iranians gave him some gift. You want to hear what Peter Baker from the New York Times thinks?
Sure.
Give me cut one, if you would, please. Tony, I guess, or Mondo, whoever's on the case there. Mondo, yeah, go for it, Tony. Just this is Peter Baker from the New York Times talking about the Trump gift that he referred to.
Could that be the gift that Iran gave to the U.S. that the president was referring to? What do you know?
It could be. Look, President Trump is looking for an off-ramp here. He's willing to characterize things in a way that will seem most advantageous to him so he can take a relatively minor concession, describe it as a really big gift in order to justify any potential peace deal if he decides to make one. We don't know they're going to make one. We don't know that that's where he's heading, but he certainly has a lot of incentive at this point to try to find a way to wrap this up domestically. This has been a real problem for him. Economically, it's been a real problem for him. And the end goals are still relatively, unclear. So I think we take everything he says at this point in the context of the negotiation and recognize that we don't really know everything that's going on right now.
If the U.S. is trying to wrap this up, some of the actions seem to point the other direction, General. We've learned the 82nd Airborne is now being called up. That's on top of all the Marines that we've reported on that have been deployed.
That's what we talked about as well. So I don't need to hear the General. We talked about that already.
But why do you think we're putting Marines, who, by the way, are trained to be dropped from the air to secure particular locations? I won't go into the details, but that's basically what this particular unit is supposed to do. It has to do with the Straits of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz has to be maintained in an open fashion. By the way, you'll note that Donald Trump said, well, Donald Trump, and the Ayatollah can run the whole thing ourselves. And of course, that is complete nonsense. Donald Trump is clearly over his head, and I'm glad you level the correct assumptions about Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense, not Secretary of War, Secretary of Defense, who was a man completely unable to grasp what's going on. Now, it's interesting that Vice President Vance and Marco Rubio are going as a team to theoretically negotiate with the Iranians. And yet, the Iranian government says they haven't talked to anybody. They don't know anything. So when it comes to what is happening now, I think it's going to continue. I was fascinated this morning when the president now has set a date to go to China. And he will do
Yeah,
that.
he
evidently
postponed that
regardless.
trip once, but yeah.
Yes, but he's saying he's got dates now and he's going, whether or not the war is over. By the way, I don't believe a thing that Donald Trump says when it comes to timing.
I think that I think you can leave out when it comes to timing. You can just say I don't believe a thing that Donald Trump says. CC Ryder writes this too. Ted Cruz says, this is a quote, "I urged the president to launch this attack. I was with him pretty much the entire day on Friday before the attack launched on Saturday." That's per the Christian Post Houston Chronicle. And thanks for the $10 super chat. I don't know. Ted Cruz. I don't know if you want to claim credit for this yet, but apparently Ted Cruz wants to say, "Hey, this was my war too." All right, I want to
wait 1 sec. Can we separate two things? The objective of the Israelis and the objectives of Donald Trump. They are not necessarily the same, but Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, and his coalition have said they're not going to stop until they've completed their task. And they are moving ground troops now into Lebanon. Believe me, this is a major, major development. But
the movement. Just because you've mentioned it, and then I want to get back to Trump and this Iran offer. But just because you've mentioned it, the movement into Lebanon by Israeli troops, and it looks as though they're going to try to carve out what they're calling a buffer zone or a safety zone there in southern Lebanon. That's always where Hezbollah has operated. Give me a thought on that. I mean, that looks like they literally are just expanding that footprint to give them what they're suggesting is necessary to security.
Lebanon has always been a quagmire for Israel. Remember, Lebanon is not really a country. It is fragmented. Hezbollah controls certain areas. The Christian areas. So Iran, when it comes to Lebanon, has an ally, and that ally is Hezbollah. And the Israelis believe, and I think legitimately so, because I have friends again in northern Israel who had to vacate their homes for months because of the bombardment. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But remember, from Israel's point of view, no matter what Trump concludes, unless the Israelis feel they are secure, it doesn't mean a darn thing.
Right. As we started this conversation and as we continue to revisit this fact, there are diverging goals, Israeli goals and American goals and Saudi goal. I mean, I was talking about how the Saudis
are now aligned with the Israelis. I mean,
the Saudis are residents of the region and they see themselves alongside the parade that the Israelis are leading, which is sort of to completely degrade Iran as a power. Go ahead, John.
You want? I don't mean to interrupt you. This is our banter, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
We've done
this is how we interrupt each other. Yeah,
there is a Sunni majority versus a Shiite minority, and what you have now is a battle between the Sunnis and the Shias. And remember that Iran is a Shiite country. And Iran views Saudi Arabia as a threat, and Saudi Arabia views Iran as a threat. And remember, if the Saudi family were overthrown, the name of the Arabian Peninsula would not be Saudi Arabia, it might be the Islamic Republic of Arabia.
There is the
real battle here.
Here is on the gift, the Iranian gift, and then I do want to get to the flipping of the district in Florida. Sure. But on the Iranian gift, Tony, you said you had that? Let me just see. This is Trump talking about.
Are you going to send Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to do direct negotiations with the Iranians?
Yeah, well, we're in negotiations, as it turned out, and now you've seen what I said yesterday was exactly correct. We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it, and the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal.
What makes you trust them?
I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize, and they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it, so that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related. And it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people.
I think there is something to this. And there was actually a post here, and I want to read it to you because it's sort of what I'm thinking. When I saw this, I thought, I wonder if they're wetting Trump's beak somehow. And here it is from Will Knight. Thank you for the for jumping into the chat with this. Trump signaling to the Iranian leadership that he's willing to make a deal as long as they sweeten the deal with a, quote, nice gift, i.e. a Tehran Trump Tower, I don't know about that, or some personal oil money. I think it's the latter. I think you always have to look at the corrupt handoff that may be going on. Listen to Trump's remarks, John Rothman, and then tell me how the Tehran regime could offer him anything that would be of value, a nice gift, a very expensive gift. I mean, these things all hit, again, how much of it is BS or whatever, but on some level, I think Trump is about self-enrichment along the way here.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Give me a thought on that.
No, I don't disagree with you, but there's nothing the Iranians can give Trump.
Right.
We're talking about the United States of America and our power in the world and our relationship with Israel and our relationship with Saudi Arabia. And Donald Trump maintains that he and he alone determines policy.
Yeah, but John, you're evaluating policy and geopolitics. Trump is much more limited. He's about a mic drop moment, declaring victory, self-enrichment. My family and I get all of this.
I disagree with you, but it doesn't change the facts on the ground. Israel is under bombardment. Our Gulf neighbors are under bombardment. There is no change in who is ruling Iran, despite the fact that Trump seems to think there is. We have no idea who J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, will be talking to if he and Marco Rubio embark on this journey, but we'll know this weekend, which means, Mark Thompson, that next Wednesday, we will have a lot to talk about.
We will indeed. But before I lose you, I am going to get to the flip. I want to just touch
You'll
on
never lose me, Mark. I'm a firm believer in the Mark Thompson program.
The futures trading that went on before Trump made the announcement that there looked like there might be a deal, it is extraordinary, John Rothman. There is insider trading going on a level that we've not ever seen before. I mean, in a world, in the Trump world that is unprecedented in terms of corruption, it would certainly suggest here that there was corruption going on.
This is the most corrupt administration in history.
Play
I
me,
want you to know the Trump family, including Jared Kushner, have made billions with a B.
All right, just show me the slide then. I don't have time. But Rothman's going on and on, so I don't have time.
Sure.
So here it is. The crude oil futures trading volume. Look at it, okay? Can everybody see it? It is, and for those who can't or are just listening, let me just describe it. It was, it was forgettable at 6 a.m., 6:30 in the morning, at even 7 o'clock, right as we approached 7 a.m., the sudden spike in futures trading at 6:49 a.m. was immense. Minutes later, at 7:05, Trump announced deferment of the strikes on Iran. That is to say, he wasn't going to strike Iran. He was going to give them that 5-day waiting period. He extended the deadline, the 48-hour deadline. And as a result, those who weighed into those oil futures made a fortune, hundreds of millions of dollars, John.
Really? Are you surprised, Mark? I am going to make a statement on this program that I believe is true. The Trump administration is the most corrupt administration on virtually every level that we have ever seen. And God help us, I hope we never see such corruption again. I know you want to move on to something, and I have one thing I want to tack on if I can before we move on.
They're the crude oil futures right now. Go. Thank you for that, Tony. A little under $100 a barrel. Go ahead.
Right.
90. And
so I know you want to talk about what happened in Florida. The Republicans across the board are having a terrible time in terms of elections. I believe, and I've said this to you repeatedly, that the midterm elections, if everything is done fairly and above board, which is a real question now, the Republicans are going to lose and lose badly. But I do want to point out that the Supreme Court is going to rule on the question of mail-in ballots. This is a critical matter. And I do want to make note of the fact that Donald Trump continues to blast away on this question. So we now have the Supreme Court in play. We have the United States Senate in play. And the question is where the Republicans will stand up. But I want to make one other comment before we conclude. You know, Mark always cuts me short, ladies.
We're not concluding, John. I got to get to this flip seat, although I can do it without you.
Okay, let's do the flip seat. Come on. And then I just want 1 minute.
So here is what happened.
Put her up. I want to see the video.
Give me cut 3, which I think speaks to the overall problem that the GOP may find itself in should there be legit midterms. I mean,
let's point out this is a House seat in Florida, not for the U.S. Congress, but for Florida's own House.
Exactly, for the Florida seat in their House. Go ahead. It's cut 3. Thank you.
CNN projects Democrat Emily Gregory will flip a Republican-held state House seat whose district includes President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. CNN chief data analyst Harry Enden is with me now. I mean, ouch.
How delicious for Democrats this morning. My goodness gracious, they're waking up. Maybe they're going to get brunch at Mar-a-Lago and say, yummy, yummy, because this result will make their stomachs feel quite good indeed. Florida's 87th House District election margin. Sarah is laughing over there. Look at this. In 2024, Donald Trump won it by 11 points. Look at this swing all the way to the left. We got Gregory, the Democrat,
in the election
winning it by 2 points in this state House special election.
2.
I will also note that they flipped a state Senate district as well further north in the state. So double fun for Democrats in a state that they have been struggling with. Democrats have lost so much power in Florida over the last decade, and then they're able to win in Donald Trump's backyard.
So that is...
and Donald Trump voted absentee. This man who says...
he voted by mail. That's exactly right.
Unbelievable. I mean, this is...
Well, he's led the charge against mail-in, and of course he voted by mail.
And that's
so of the battle. of those 3 races, okay, the Democrats won 2 of them, and in both cases, those were in districts that Trump carried. So this is the important point here. So if you look at it as something of an indicator, here she is, by the way, the Democrat who flipped that seat, cut 9, and you can actually hear her for a moment or two. It's something of a significant moment, as I said. It's cut 9. Isn't it? Here's the Democrat who flipped the seat.
Is the Democrat who flipped this seat, Emily Gregory. Emily, thanks for joining us. You are still fresh off this win. How are you feeling this morning? What do you think this race came down to?
Well, thank you so much. I am feeling pretty good. It was a pretty exciting night. I'm very proud. I'm just proud of all of the hard work that my campaign, that all of the volunteers, that this army of neighbors that came together to knock as many doors as humanly possible, to make as many phone calls, and to get in front of as many voters as we could.
You didn't want this race to be a referendum on President Trump, but he's hard to avoid, and now he will be one of your constituents. How much did people talk to you about the president?
I would say roughly 0. I mean, it really was not a factor for any of my voters, any of my now constituents. They're focused on their lives. They're focused on the absolute crushing cost of goods, the squeeze they are feeling, why their property insurance has skyrocketed, why they're losing their health care, why are our public schools being gutted. That's what I heard every single day at the door.
So what's interesting to me about that, thank you, Mondo. What's interesting to me about that is that some of those things she talks about actually do connect to the White House, and some of them really connect to the State House and the governor. And it's a governor who's really pounded Democrats during his hold on the state of Florida.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, this was, in a sense, a referendum on Donald Trump. But you can see it in virtually every race that is taking place. The Republicans are desperate because if they lose the House of Representatives, and I've suggested this to you repeatedly, if they lose the House of Representatives, all bets are off for Donald Trump. And the fascinating thing is the Senate is now up for grabs as well. It is possible, I think probable, that the Democrats will in the end take control of the Senate. Chuck Schumer may not be the majority leader. That may shift. But the fact of the matter is that with judges being nominated and confirmed by the Senate, from the Republican point of view, retaining control of the Senate is critical, and for the Democrats to stop it. I know we're running out of time, Mark, and I appreciate all the time you give me, but I would be remiss if you and I did not discuss for a moment the tragic ending of CBS Radio News. I have thundered about this on my own podcast. I listened to the CBS National News. May 22nd, it will close. And the legacy of Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite and all the others at CBS will simply fade. And I'm very concerned about it. I think as broadcasters, we should all be concerned about it. And I don't know what's going to happen, but the fact that CBS Radio News Network is closing down is a disgrace of the first order. And Barry Weiss, let's nail it where it is, who is a great supporter of Donald Trump, is responsible for this.
Yes and no. I don't know that. I mean, you stated so beautifully, as you do everything, but the reality is that this is a time that's past. Radio is in trouble. The reality is that independent media platforms like this one, like the podcast universe that we are also on, and that, frankly, they're far more dominant figures in all of those places than us. But I'm just saying that that's really where the audience has found a lot of information. And as you've seen, you get an attenuation of the audience across all of these different places. And as a result, you don't have radio listeners the way you did. So CBS News Radio just couldn't make it pencil out, at least the way they were doing it. What you are lamenting, and let me just finish, and I'll because I understand what you're lamenting, but you're not lamenting the I mean, you can look wistfully at the time that we used to all listen to the radio and there was sort of a collective information gathering. But what you're really lamenting is the passage of information that we felt we could count on, that was vetted, that editorial staffs made sure was accurate. You're lamenting a time past. When you say Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite, there are a bunch of people who are now around, John, who don't even know who those people were.
You're absolutely correct. But the quality of CBS News and the radio news that they provided has been essential. So I listen to KCBS on the hour because I like the CBS National News. What am I going to get, Mark? Am I going to get Fox News now? Am I going to get something else? I'm only pointing out to you, this is a tremendous blow to American journalism. I believe that with every fiber of my being.
The blow to American journalism was the hatchet that was taken to the Washington Post, was the shakedown that ABC News went through, that CBS went through, that Paramount went through, this mergers and acquisitions that have just run amok. There is no regulatory structure to hold them back. And so if you think Fox News Channel is bad, it's all going Fox News Channel. The billionaire boys club that makes up Trump's country club, they are running media.
I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not objecting to what you're saying. I'm just saying that to see a major news network that has represented the finest in journalism, we remember when our old station, KGO, received the Edward R. Murrow Award. And you're right, I just finished teaching a class on Edward R. Murrow at the University of San Francisco for the Fromm Institute. I understand the demise of that, and I do mourn it. But
you should mourn the demise of an objective FCC, an FCC now that's run by a jihadist. I mean,
I agree with you.
And the end of PBS, the end of NPR. You should lament
we've
those
talked
things.
about that.
I get the CBS top of the hour is going away, but I lament the series of things that have happened that have led to this. But I think there are even greater losses than the CBS radio network.
So
I understand what you're
I
saying.
agree.
Believe
I'm
me.
only taking it topically, but I want to point out to everybody, the reason I appear on the Mark Thompson program and the reason you listen to the Mark Thompson program is because what we get from Mark and Kim and the crew is news and analysis, and that's what we need. So if you're not a subscriber to the Mark Thompson program, please do. And as for yours truly, I'll be back here next Wednesday preparing for yet another fascinating time with Mark Thompson.
John Rothmann, Around the Political World with John Rothmann. I'm chuckling because he always sticks the landing with something like that. You know, his daily podcast is available to you. John, love you. Thank you. Thanks. Be well, my friend. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
All right, let me put some hate up there for me. I love it. Bring on the haters. Yeah, come on. Mark, let Rothmann have his CBS moment. CBS used to represent the very best in journalism. It's worth mourning its loss.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, sorry I didn't give him his moment. I was trying to make a broader point. I guess it was too subtle. Hollywood cowgirl felt that I should have just let John emote more, which then I'm sorry. And then there's this. Paul Goddard says, Mark's conversation is fragmented because of his interruptions.
What?
My gosh, what is going on?
This is a man with anger. This is a man that has resentment towards you.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
It's a conversation. Conversations are back and forth. And if I don't interrupt Rothmann, he goes on forever. Rothmann, you know it's true, right? Is Rothmann still there backstage? Yeah. John, you know, if I don't interrupt you, you'll just keep talking, right? Am I right?
May I say clearly and precisely?
Yeah.
That
say it clearly and precisely.
The back and forth with Mark Thompson is what makes it interesting and fun, and it even works when we slightly disagree. But Mark and I really agree on this question of CBS and news in general. And those of you who listen to my podcast, Around the Political World with John Rothmann, know that when it came to PBS, NPR, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the lawsuits against ABC, NBC, and CBS by the Trump administration, all of these things are critical. I guess what I'm lamenting, Mark, is that late at night, when I want to hear what's going on in the world, I know that if I turn to KCBS here in San Francisco and I get the national CBS news, I'm at least getting who, what, when, where, why, which is how we were trained to give the news.
The economy of broadcasting has changed, is what I was saying, and that was noted in the in Lava Q's last remark. And then, of course, PNE says, I've told you, Mark, quit interrupting.
Why are you yelling?
The only person I interrupt regularly is Rothmann, and he's right. I will continue to, and we love it.
And I love you, Mark. Support the Mark Thompson program. For every interruption, give a little more money.
Thank you, Rothmann. Love you.
My pleasure.
See you later. All right, my friend. Bye-bye.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it. asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.